It is so much more than the money. For some reason, Indianapolis becomes all-encompassing, and for some people, their entire lives have been the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And David referred to one of the gentlemen, and he's with me right now, Johnny Parsons Jr. He has not had much of an opportunity this month to work up to speed. What are your chances?
Well, right now, it depends on chassis setup, and a Euro car is definitely not as efficient when it comes to low pressure underneath, and therefore acquiring the speeds needed to get in the race. It's going to be tough.
Well, lost in all this shuffle of the search for speed is the fact that Johnny had a very tough year last year. Any thoughts about that, John?
No, I completely got it out of my mind. I was happy to get on the track last Thursday, and after 4 days, I feel like I almost need a vacation already because it's been thrilling. The car hasn't been right. Sometimes it'll be understeer, or sometimes it'll want to jump out, as it did this morning. So we're just, you know, they take a lot of time and just very little adjustments on them.
Well, we were talking moments ago about what will the bubble speed be. Johnny thought, well, maybe 206.5. We were speculating.
A.J. Foyt walking back to the pit area with Johnny Parsons. Johnny is not in this year's field. A.J. Foyt does have another car left. I don't think, though, that he'll be pulling it out and allowing Johnny to qualify it. So when one makes the move, and it appears as if Gordon Johncock has made the move down to the inspection area, I would think then that we would see the next hour completely filled with qualification attempts. How many of those? And I talked a little bit earlier about how A.J. Foyt had a fourth car here. That was really the one that he had hoped to qualify, the number 14, and it has been pulled from the garage area onto pit road. And we assume that since Johnny Parsons was walking along with A.J. Foyt just a few minutes ago that you saw live here on ESPN, that Johnny may be getting into this car. You see A.J. putting the helmet on. He's going to go down and go out and shake the car down and say that it's ready or not. And then we assume that Parsons will get a chance to qualify this car, and that would make 4 A.J. Foyt-owned cars in the starting lineup.
Must be making a fortune this week. What with selling one to Raul Basell, renting them out, leasing them out. Old A.J. will be making more money than he will from the race.
You'll notice how quickly Johnny Parsons is adapting to the A.J. Foyt team. He has already gotten on an A.J. Foyt hat and looks like a full team member. So some drama being played out here. Gordon Johncock is suiting up.
Scott Atchison was the only rookie who had qualified from last week's field. He has been bumped, and there is A.J. Foyt. You might call him the Pied Piper of pit road here in Indianapolis. He has gone to one of those legendary names, and it looks like Johnny Parsons Jr., the son of the 1950 winner, may be getting his golden chance.
And you know, Larry, there is something significant in all of those people that you mentioned. They are all guys that have come up through the ranks, driving USAC, driving the sprint cars and the midgets.
Absolutely, Bob. As a matter of fact, Gordon Johncock came from the unlikely trail of super modified racing, and that's something you don't see too much of these days. But Gordon Johncock is one who made the jump.
Has come out, and the track is heating up once again. Now there is A.J. Foyt in the car that he was originally hoped to qualify himself. However, he qualified another car, and now he's taking this one out to see what kind of speed it can achieve. And if it's good enough, he'll turn it over to Johnny Parsons and allow Johnny to try to qualify it.
Well, of course, this goes down to what Parnelli Jones said in that interview with Roger Ward, that nowadays it's about 80% car and 20% driver. And, of course, one way that we could cure that overnight would be to increase the boost on these engines from its pathetic 45 inches of mercury back up to about 60, which would still give these engines a lot of reliability, and, of course, put flat bottoms back on them and reduce the size of the wings. And we'd see these cars once again having to brake as they came into the corners here at Indianapolis, and they certainly wouldn't be anything like as affected by the weather as they are at the moment.
Well, you know, I imagine there are as many varied opinions as there are people down in the pit area as to how IndyCar racing could be made better and the changes that could make them more competitive. Right now, as you indicated, they reduced the amount of boost last year from 47 inches to 45 this year in hopes of reducing the speed substantially, and that certainly is not the way things turned out during this month of May.
No, aerodynamics have more than made up for those 2 inches of boost. And, of course, it would put much more emphasis back on the driver again. And for the top classes of racing in the world, Formula One and IndyCar racing, the driver should be the guy that calls the shots, not really the car.
So A.J. Foyt is on the racetrack trying to build that car up to speed and turn it over to Johnny Parsons for a qualification attempt.
struggle to make this year's starting lineup has been perhaps his greatest.
But he did make the lineup, and right now sits in the middle of row number 8, having qualified in 209.696. And there is A.J. on the track right now in a car that has not qualified. Johnny Parsons may take it over if A.J. can get the necessary speed out of it.
Well, they've got about 43 minutes to find out whether that's got the speed and whether Johnny Parsons can get it up to speed as well.
So we are in the final 45 minutes of qualifying for this year's Indianapolis 500 field, and we are live from the Brickyard. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I'm Bob Jenkins, along with David Hobbs, Gary Lee, and Larry Newber on this final hour, actually final 40 minutes of qualifying for this year's 500-mile race. Well, let's go down to Gary Lee in the pit area to kind of summarize what's going on here in the last few minutes. Gary?
We're standing right down in the A.J. Foyt pit area where Johnny Parsons is anxiously awaiting to take a ride in car number 14. A.J. has been out more than just shaking the car down. He came back in for a suspension adjustment, took one lap, came back in. They made an adjustment to the front wing. So apparently when they make the car comfortable, JP will likely hop in the 4th A.J. Foyt entry, car number 14. Now, we would assume that should he qualify and bump his way in, that car would become 41, and A.J.'s car he qualified yesterday will become 14.
We have a shot of Johnny right now, and that is his son standing there to his right, and they're talking over the situation. There was a very famous picture that ran in a local newspaper here last year. They called the 12th row. It was Johnny Parsons, Jim Crawford, and Dennis Firestone, 3 that had been injured in crashes here last year. So Johnny is coming back from injuries that were suffered last year here at the Speedway. So far, Foyt is in the race with 30 races. Rocky Moran has qualified. He's a rookie. Stan Fox comes to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 2nd time and makes the race. And now A.J. is working to put Johnny Parsons in. You know, we've talked about many times Dick Simon and the fact that he seems to bring along the young drivers and offer them rides, and certainly taking nothing away from Dick because he indeed does do that. But so does A.J. Foyt, and he's proving it right now.
And, of course, one of the guys he gave a drive to last year was my old teammate Davy Jones, or rather young Davy Jones, who he drove for A.J. a few times last year. And, of course, that's helped David's springboard to success. And this year he's one of the lead drivers in the Walkinshaw Jaguars over here in IMSA. And, of course, he'll be another driver, another American driver, who'll be doing the 24-hour race at Le Mans Ford Jag. A very, very good drive for Davy. But I'm sure that one of these days he wants to get back in an Indy car. And I know he's got a lot of respect for A.J. Foyt.
Well, I think this pictures speak for themselves here. A.J. has climbed out of the car. He is taking the helmet off, and he is talking to Johnny Parsons.
What are they tweaking now?
Working at the rear end of the car right now, perhaps on the rear wing. Anyway, Johnny Parsons is standing by with helmet in hand, ready to put it on when given the word by A.J. Foyt to take it out there and see what you can do with it.
Unbelievably small adjustments make unbelievably large effect on these cars. I mean, the rear wing there, it doesn't look much, but at 200 miles an hour in Indianapolis trim, these cars give over 2,200 pounds of downforce.
Lineup for this year's race. And Johnny Parsons also waits for a ride in A.J. Foyt's car. Now is Rich Vogler at 206.463 miles an hour, and several drivers are seeking speed to bump him out of the lineup. A.J. Foyt has brought a 4th car onto pit road, and now you can see that Johnny Parsons is being strapped in. Foyt had the car out just a few minutes ago and apparently got the car in a position that he thought would be okay for Johnny, and now Johnny Parsons is getting strapped in. Parsons, of course, as we said, coming back from very bad injuries to his feet and legs suffered in a crash last year here at the Speedway.
This just shows you how desperate these people are to make this race, because here we've got a guy who's going out with just 35 minutes to go in a car he's never sat in before to try and qualify for one of the longest and most dangerous races in the world, and he's prepared to put it all on the line in just 3 or 4 laps. I mean, can you imagine that happening in pretty well any other form of racing? It's quite extraordinary, the effort and the lure that this Indianapolis 500 has for these people.
Well, it has prestige, and it also has money involved, because it isn't going to be too long, maybe this year, that the 33rd finisher is going to make more than $100,000 for this race.
A.J. Foyt already has 3 cars in the race. We talk about his temper at times. He's cantankerous, sometimes difficult to get along with. But look at this. He's down on his hands and knees right now, changing the wicker bill on the left front wing to help stabilize the nose of this race car. He doesn't have to do it. He has 3 cars in the race. He is working just as hard as anybody else to help a fellow racer. Johnny Parsons is strapped in. He's ready to go out. I'm impressed with what A.J. is doing this afternoon.
The track remains open for practice. Still, no one has brought themselves to the qualification line to indicate that he's ready to make an attempt. So we remain under a practice situation, and that is, of course, what Johnny Parsons wants very much, to get in a few laps of practice and to see what this car can do before deciding whether or not to attempt a qualification run.
We assume that Scott Atchison has not managed to do a deal with another car owner. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd have seen him out by now practicing in a car. If you remember when we spoke to him a few minutes ago, his crew chief was off trying to put together a deal, but we don't see him out in another car, and time really is running out for Scott Atchison, who one has to have a lot of sympathy for, considering he's been in the field now for 8 days.
Car, but now it looks like they may be in jeopardy of getting bumped, so he said let's hold off. And
So his offer was, what, the 71T car, probably, the backup for Ludwig?
yeah, I think so.
It must be disappointing. Going through a whole week and with the struggle for speeds and then the threat of bad weather. Really, by close of business last night, things looked reasonably safe, didn't they?
Well, yeah, with the weather today, it looked like it was going to be rain and be in the field, so it looked pretty good today, but
Well, it's not over yet, but it's definitely 11:59 p.m.
It's not over till it's over, but it could be over for Scott Atchison. There's old Johnny Parsons.
Oh,
Get it.
whoa, whoa, whoa! He's hitting the wall.
JP, clever. Smart move at all.
And he keeps it away from contact with the wall once again, but he has damaged the right side of that car, and so Johnny Parsons' attempt to get the car up to qualifying speed is over. Johnny Parsons has bumped the wall, and there you can see that A.J. has just been told the news, and he can't be a very happy person at this time.
He will have some words to say to poor Johnny there. Johnny just tried to go too fast too soon. He looked like he was going very fast, and he got a little bit wide. And of course, you get onto the gray, where there's all the rolled up rubber and dust and oil dry that Mario Andretti had trouble with during his qualifying run, and hit the wall.
Well, that car has given A.J. Foyt a problem, too, in the laps that Foyt has put on it. Here it is once again, and the rear end just got out from under him, David.
The rear end got away. He got it back, but unfortunately, he had missed the apex then and was too far up and gave the wall a pretty good clout. And, of course, that's one of the things with these wing cars. They're so susceptible to a little bit of change that you really need to just play yourself in a bit. Unfortunately, with the way the qualifying is set up here, you don't have time to play yourself.
Johnny Parsons will make the mandatory ride to the hospital to be checked over. He appears to be okay.
AJ, I've talked to you after you've won races, after you've fallen out of races, after you've qualified for races, but never in a situation like this. How can you smile when you turn another driver loose and he tears up the race car?
Well, it's not, as long as he's not hurt, that race car can be replaced, and it's just automobile racing, and if you're not going to wreck them, you're not going to be trying hard, and I know he was trying hard, and the car's been acting up all week. That's the reason I kind of parked it, and I thought I had it where it feel halfway safe, and I guess I just didn't have it right for him. You know, the car tried to bite me all week long, but I didn't let it, and was down to the last 30 minutes qualifying, and naturally Johnny wanted to try to get it in. I wanted him to try to get it in, and it's just one of the misfortune things.
We've used the term legendary when we describe Supertex, and I think that's part of what makes you so legendary. You didn't have to go out and try to put a fourth entry in. I saw you on your hands and knees down there working on that front wing. You're to be commended.
Well, that's true. I took a little wing off the front there just to try to make the car a little bit more secure. You know, was having trouble with the car pushing. I don't know what really happened. I had some new tires on it for him, so we don't know till I talk to him. But the biggest thing, as long as he's not hurt.
Just a case of a racer trying to put a race car in a race car.
That's exactly right. He's a good racer, and he deserves to be in this race.
Well, I think that just about says it all. A.J. Foyt doesn't care about the race car as long as Johnny is okay.